amarte, disfruto acariciarte y ponerte a dormir.
Hola mi gente, Vivian Rivera with Hernando Hispanic Heritage. I have the amazing pleasure to be joined today by Cristina Alonzo, a woman who I admire deeply, who is resilient, who is strong, fearless. I mean, there aren't enough words to describe your journey, who you are, what you stand for, and honestly, I am looking forward to everyone, including myself, to learn a little bit more about your journey and who you are. But definitely, I want to start by saying that this is a pillar of our community worthy of admiration.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking time.
I feel the same way about you.
I know that you stay busy, so I appreciate you carving out a little bit of time from your schedule today to meet with me. And for those that may not know, she's a realtor with Florida's A-Team Realty. So, Cristina, I want to start by young Cristina. Were you born in Florida?
I was born in New Haven, Connecticut.
Okay, so you came at what age to actually move to Florida?
I've been back and forth in Florida since I was really young. But the last time that I moved here, I was 26.
Okay.
So I moved back to Connecticut. I moved to Puerto Rico. I've lived in New York, kind of all over the place. But I moved to Spring Hill and when I was 26 years old in 2006.
Okay, and I want to say that there has been a debate, not only in my household, but I know people often wonder, what is your background and your heritage?
Okay, so my mom is Puerto Rican, and my dad, he passed away when I was 2 years old.
Okay.
And my biological father, he was from Cuba. Oh. But the reason why most people associate me with the Indian culture is because my mom married an Indian man, a Patel, when I was really young. So he raised me as my father, and people say I look Indian,
right?
But I'm Puerto Rican and Cuban. According to Ancestry DNA, I'm like 100 different things, right? Primarily Portugal.
Oh, wow.
But my dad was born in Cuba, my biological dad, and my mom was born in Puerto Rico.
And you grew up with the culture of the Indian food.
Yes.
Oh, and tradition. That's beautiful.
That's why I had the Indian flag at the parade. Yes.
And that's a beautiful thing that you still represent that you learn, and it makes you well-rounded as well. But you mentioned something that brings me to ask you further, the DNA ancestor that you did. And this, I caught a glimpse on Facebook, some videos that you shared a while ago. You had a brother,
yes,
that you never met.
Yes.
And you had the urge always to find him and tell everybody how long it was that you had this one desire in the story that I know.
Well, our father had my brother at the age of 15.
Wow.
Okay. And had me at the age of 17.
Okay.
At the age of 20, he was murdered. We had different mothers.
Okay.
And his mother thought it was, the best decision for him to be raised by her husband now. He was military, and he adopted him as he could because my father was no longer. And so she thought that at the time that it was just the best decision to, not have him associated with his biological family. Correct. For whatever reason, people choose to do things for what they think is right at that
time. Right.
I, on the other hand, was very close to my dad's family, still am. Angie that works here is my cousin, my biological cousin on my dad's side. Very close to my dad's family.
So you always knew?
I always knew I had
a brother.
And I always longed for any connection to my father. So when I turned 18, that was back in 1998, there was a service called People Finder.
I'm aware of that.
So you paid $99, and 1998 at 18, $99 for me might as well have been $10,000.
Wow.
Because, it was a single mom of two. So I did that. I didn't get anywhere because he was adopted and they changed his first name and his last name.
Oh, his first name was changed as well.
And his last name. So he had a different first name, a different last name. I always just knew his mother's name because my family had shared what her name was.
Okay.
So when social media became a thing, I, constantly this is who I'm looking for. This is his mom. This is about how old he should be. I didn't know like exactly his birthday, but it's always a longing. And I loved him. I didn't know him.
But there was a part of you out there somewhere, someone that shared your DNA.
Somebody that maybe looked like me, right. Someone who I've always wanted a big brother. I'm a big sister. I have a little brother. He's half Indian. And so I just never gave up. It was every birthday wish. Wow. I just wished to find my brother. Aww. And last year, not this past December, but the December before that, I always was checking the Ancestry DNA, and I had a match.
Wow.
And it comes up as close relative. So if it's a first cousin, a second cousin, the DNA map will tell you, but it came up as a close relative, as close as my dad's sister.
Did you jump? Like,
yes. Ah! I was like, oh, I just started calling my cousin Angie and her brother Jose, the owner of Lawn Factory.
Okay.
So I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like, who could this be? I'm like, did our grandmother have a kid that wasn't? Yeah. And so we're like trying to tie it all up, and because you can tell if it's your maternal side or your paternal side.
Oh, that's awesome.
So okay. I knew it was
you could narrow down.
My dad. Uh-huh. So I reached out to her. It was a girl.
Oh, so it actually gives you, I've never done this. So if anybody has not done this, we're trying to share what type of information, because you might want to try it out if you got somebody. So it actually tells you the name of the person?
Yes, because the person has to have done the DNA, and so their account.
Okayed it.
Yes. Okay. So she had her account on there. Okay. And so, I messaged her through the account, and I was like, I don't know. I said, but we're really close relatives. We share like this much DNA. You're either a sister or an aunt to me. It didn't cross my mind that she could have been a niece. It just, that wasn't, I don't know why I didn't think that. And I started thinking, and then it popped it. So she answered me like the next day, and she's like, hey, I'm really tired. I just got out of work. I'll, talk to you tomorrow. Well, I am like filled with anxiety.
I bet.
And I'm like,
I don't care how tired you are.
So I share a story. I'm like, hey, I said, my father was murdered when I was 2 years old. He had a son. His son's name was, the same as him. He was born a junior. And she goes, I'm going to call you. And
okay, so she no longer decided to go to bed. Yes. She was intrigued too.
So
okay,
she calls me, and she's like, I'm your niece.
Wow.
And so, I'm not going to cry. You see, that's why you're going to make me cry today. Yeah, you're going to make me cry. But I was so overwhelmed. I think I got so nervous that I just started rambling. And I'm like, I want to know everything about you. And where's my brother? And blah, 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 blah. And so she's like,
poor girl's being hit left and right. She's
like, my dad doesn't know you exist. So she said, you have to let me tell him, because she didn't know how he was going to react. And she told him. She ended up telling him the next day. I'm like, tell him right now. So she gave me his name. So I start through going on social media. I found every single social media account. I looked at everything that this man had posted since he made any type of social media. I saved every single picture that he ever shared. I still have them on my phone. So
before he can even reach out to you, you're already doing the background on him and looking. So you are stalking him completely. Yes. And do you see a resemblance there?
We look like we have the same mom and dad. So it's insane.
So now you're even more excited about me.
My son just looks like him.
You have somebody to relate to that you can greet. Oh, that's a beautiful story. So tell me what happens when he reaches out, when he finds out.
The next day, he calls, and he's so warm and like inviting and so excited. And that's because beautiful. I'm Cristina, I booked a flight. I was like, would it be really weird if I flew down there? He's like, when? I was like, in 2 hours.
Oh my. And I do remember, if I'm not, you correct me, it's your story. This was around Christmas time. Yes. It's a week before Christmas. The weather up north was crazy. Flights were being canceled left, because I even remember messaging you and saying, God's time is perfect. Don't you try to control it, because your flight got canceled several times. 6 different flight cancellations. I was starting to get worried about, I feel like if things don't happen, they don't happen for a reason. Let's wait. You found him after all this year. You've gotten this far. Let's wait it out. But God was on her side and got her out there. Yes. And she made it out there.
Yes, I finally made it. I was in Connecticut for less than 24 hours.
Crazy.
It's so funny. So much of our family on my maternal side is tied into his family. Like my cousins, he owns a barbershop. He cuts my cousin's hairs. So many, yes.
your maternal side
is still in Connecticut. A lot of my family.
And actually know this man,
know him,
but did not know this was your brother.
No.
Look at God.
Never put it together.
Oh, my Lord.
So since then, he's come here. I've come there. I spent my last birthday with him.
And you now have a brother.
I talk to him every single day.
You have a beautiful niece.
I have a niece and 2 nephews.
Isn't that amazing how one's life can change from one day to the other? And in this case, it was a beautiful turnout. It was for the best. But we've gone the other way too, right? Yes. You've experienced the other side. And you did earlier mention about being a mom, single mom of 2, and how at the age 18, doing the people finder for $99. That was a lot of money. And so people look at this beautiful, amazing businesswoman and don't realize, what does she mean? It wasn't always this way, was it?
No.
So do tell me about that girl that became a single mom a little bit.
I got married at the age of 15.
15. Wow.
15. At the time, my family thought it was the right thing.
Okay.
Culturally, if you were no longer a flower,
right,
put it nicely,
I get it.
You should be married.
Correct.
And so I was given a choice to get married or to go to a boarding school in London.
Wow.
And I chose the latter of the 2.
And now looking back, dang, London would have been shot.
I'm like, oh man, it sure would have.
But 2 beautiful kids came out of that. Yes, so, yes. But you know, I want to put a pause because, like you said, culturally, and I want to touch on that. Sometimes, and I've witnessed this, and I don't know if it's the older generation, and sometimes it's not even culture. I want to say that generation, period, right?
Yes.
Had a mindset about that, not realizing that by forcing something together that may not be right, you're creating more damage than good. And so I am glad that through the years, our generation and future generations can cut that out. You know what I'm saying? Can break the chains and say, you know what? No, that's a choice for you to make. That's for you to decide because it's the rest of your life, and just be supportive. But in your case, so you became married at the age of 15 and had your first child at the age of
17.
17. And were you living
I didn't get married because I was pregnant.
Okay.
So I just got married because I was no longer a flower. It was a damaged flower.
Oh, Lordy.
According to that generation.
Correct. Good Lord. And then they wonder why we don't share everything. There's some things we can't tell you. You can't handle the truth. But okay. So were you living at home when you had your...
No. I got married and lived on my own.
So you were told you need to get married and you need to move away and start your adult life at this point, and you're 15.
And I'm 15.
So obviously you're in school at the age of 15. You're in high school. How did that change you?
From traditional high school to night school, you know, I went to night school. I worked at Pollo Tropical. And
where in
Walmart.
Tampa?
No, and in Orlando on Curry Ford.
Okay, so we don't have one here, so I'm like, where?
So I worked at Pollo Tropical in Orlando, and I worked at Walmart, and I went to night school.
Wow.
I remember my first set of furniture, because I wasn't allowed to take anything that I had from the house, but my family had gas stations, and they gave me the milk crates.
Okay.
So you know the milk used to come in the plastic, like
absolutely.
DJs used to use them to put this.
I still have a few at home that I use for files.
So I'll never forget that I made my living room set. I shaped it into couches and coffee tables. I put pillows over my milk crate.
Listen, do you not know that's in style these days? It is. Like, I've seen the milk crates being used as benches outside. They put like a 4x4 or whatever wood across. Come on. You were innovative before you. Yeah, absolutely. You were setting trends, girl. Go ahead.
Kitchen table, all of it.
I'm glad we could laugh about this because I'm sure it was not as easy as you're painting it at the age of 15 to have to figure a way while your mind is not really fully developed. You are still in your prime years of teen. So I commend you for taking the reins and saying, all right, let's do this. Go ahead.
So at 17, I had my first son. And my son's father at the time, he was a child as well. He was a little bit older than me. He decided that he just didn't want to be married to me anymore. So we weren't.
So now that puts you at being a single mom.
Yeah. So I had fallen into the hands of a bad man that I met, that rebound relationship. I suffered, was with this man for about 7 years, had a child by him, and very abusive, very physically, mentally abusive, but had brainwashed me. I say brainwash because if you dealt with domestic violence, a lot of people say, why did you stay? Why didn't you just leave? Right. But unless you're in it and you realize the psychology behind it and how a lot of these personalities are narcissistic personalities. So he had made me believe, because I had 2 kids by 2 different fathers, nobody's ever going to want me. Nobody was ever going to want me. So I dealt with that abuse. So he
manipulated you into basically saying, this is my only option right now. Mm-hmm. I have to stay and deal.
Because nobody's going to want me, or I'm damaged. And, why would I want to bring anyone else around my children?
That's true.
So I dealt with that until I...
So you were a victim of domestic violence for 7 years. And I've seen a video where you share this, and I know soon you will be speaking also. And let's just give a shout out, when is that engagement? Because there will be other ladies empowering women there. And I want to attend, and I want everybody else to attend as well.
It's on March 2nd.
Beautiful. And tickets are available. They're $35, and I'll share some of that information.
Thank you.
But I get sidetracked easy, as you can see.
I'm squirrel brain too.
Yeah, so. I'm like, woo, I went to that. But getting back, so as a living through domestic, I don't want to say a victim. At that time, you were a victim, but you are
now. I'm a victor.
There you go. Amen.
Survivor.
Amen. Mm-hmm. And praise God. Amen. So during those 7 years, like you said, you felt you were brainwashed or conditioned to believe this is my new life. Mm-hmm. This is me. I have 2 kids. And what made you snap of that control to say, no way, this cannot be the rest of my life? And I say that because you could be of inspiration. When we share this video, I'm sure there are people out there that are not opening up. Mm-hmm. It's hard when you're in that situation, I imagine, to trust in your loved ones who care so much, right? Because you had people probably you could have told. Why didn't you? I'm curious.
Mentally, I knew that I was not ready to leave.
Okay.
And people, family who had tried to help me.
Right.
They leave you with the words, if you go back, I don't ever want to hear about it again.
Right.
Not understanding that there is a cycle in domestic violence of going back, because these personality types are narcissistic. So they will bring you up again. So you feel like, maybe it's your fault, or maybe it's because this person didn't have enough love, and maybe I can love them, better, and they're going to treat me better. Yes, or they'll change. So you end up going back, and then now you're embarrassed because it happens again. So you just pretend it's not happening. I isolated myself from everyone. It came to the point where I didn't have friends. I didn't have, my mother didn't know what was going on with me. I was just locked up in that.
So you're shutting down in that situation, and going back to, when was the point? Where were you the day you said, this is enough?
The last time the abuse was about a 13-hour incident where I was left, my daughter was locked in a closet, and I was basically almost left for blood. My daughter was, with me, with the pool of blood. I had 27 staples across my head.
Oh my God, I never knew it was that serious.
It was living in a nightmare. It was physical. It was always physical. But this last time, I ended up, somebody came to the house, a girl that I didn't know. She came looking for his brother, and she found me, and I thank that girl for that. And she brought me to the hospital, and she took care of my daughter. She didn't even know, because when the things and that I think that needs to be fixed is when women are in a domestic violence situation, the state gets involved when you have children.
Right.
And they will assess a guardian ad litem, and Department of Children gets involved. Well, if you end up going back, you say you're committing violence towards your children. And so some women don't speak up about it because they don't want to get their children taken away.
Of course.
Which is one of the reasons I didn't want to call the police, because I'm like, And this last time I wasn't with him. He broke into my house and did this. But I was afraid that if now Department of Children and Families find out, police find out, I'm going to get my children taken away. You know, and I was still young. I was, 26 years old. But I was in a hospital, and here at it was back then, it was Spring Hill Regional, and a police officer, tell me what happened. And he's like, what happened? And of course, I made up a story, and I told him I fell off my roof. It was like just the first thing.
Okay.
And he starts sharing with me about a girl that had just died due to domestic violence.
Oh, he knew.
And so he told me,
he has seen you before in others.
Yeah.
Oh,
so,
gosh.
And I remember just crying and telling him,
sorry, hormonals, and of course sympathizing. Go ahead.
But he told me, he's like, next time you may not be so lucky. He's like,
so right.
Or
your children.
Or my children.
Or your children.
So that was kind of a wake-up call, the story that he shared with me. And I, was honest with him. And that was it. That was the last time I went forward. All the other times I was in the courthouse the next day saying, no, he really didn't mean to do that. It wasn't like that, just, blatantly lying about it. And this time I was like, no, this is what's going on.
This is my truth.
This is my truth. And at the point where I started changing my life, because I started learning to love myself, and that I did not need anyone, not a man, not a relative, to make me feel better, to make me feel worthy. I had to start with learning how to love
show you
myself.
Love. Yeah, you didn't need to be validated.
I did not need to be validated.
You had to find that in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And how did you do that? What do you suggest to other people that are in that rut and saying, you know what, I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, they're in that funk or in that depression? How do you find that strength within?
I had to lean into my source, which is God. Prior to that, I almost had a shame that I wasn't good enough for God. My life, I went to church, but felt like, I can't go to this church because I'm going to be judged, because I'm not doing everything I should be doing, because I have 2 children by 2 different men, because I'm not married, because
I don't fall within the rules of the expectations, I guess. Okay, I get it. And so many feel that way, and it's sad that the churches get that reputation, or the people that go to church feel holier than thou, and so those that actually need to seek God and the love shy away for fear of being judged. So I'm glad that you did lean into God and slowly
just started, walking by faith, changing the people that I was around. I had always had other, than childhood jobs. I'd always managed to get good jobs. And
well, you're very sociable. I love your personality, and I know this conversation here is a little heavy, but you have a great smile. So I thank God for you that you found that smile.
Thank you.
That brightens other people's day, because when you come around, my God, you share around, okay? And you now encourage, motivate, and again, you hope to others, because knowing that you were able to pull your straps on and bring yourself back, encourages as many to say, listen, my situation is probably not even that bad, so I too can do it. Or it is that bad, but there is hope, and I will do it. So after that, you've worked at different places. So tell me.
So I started working in education in the role of admissions.
Okay.
And I started seeing value in education. I wanted to move up, and I couldn't apply for certain jobs because I didn't have that degree. So then I started, going to college and continue to work my way up through the college system as I continue to educate myself. My goal, and my ultimate goal, still is to become a psychologist.
Okay.
So I worked in the realm of admissions, and then I was kind of like a college guidance counselor, and then I was a director of a college.
Wow, that's awesome.
So prior to this.
And what is this?
I now own a real estate brokerage with my husband.
Beautiful. And what led you from doing all that other stuff to decide, you know what, I'm going to venture off into real estate, because that's a huge switch from education, working with the colleges and stuff like that, to decide, okay, you know what, let's try this for a change or to see where it takes us. And you guys are doing well. Like you said, congratulations.
Thank you.
You and your husband now
Thank
own
you.
your own brokerage firm, and
Thank
that's a great achievement.
Thank you.
So, wow. So tell us, how did that come about?
When my stepfather, my father that raised me, passed away, my mom, she loves HGTV, anything to do with houses. She always wanted to flip houses, so she got into flipping houses.
Gotcha.
So at the time, I was running a college and I was going, in grad school, trying to, pursue, continue further my education. And my mom kept putting the bug in my ear. Why don't you get your real estate license? And I was like, Mom, I've been in school, for this amount of years. I'm like, well, I don't want to be a realtor. I'm like, and I never even thought about being a realtor. But she's like, but if you get your license and you can find, she thought, which is not true, that I would find all the houses before they hit, and I'd be able to sell them to her at a dirt cheap price.
You will have that inside magic information,
and she wouldn't have to compete with anybody and nobody else. And hey, there's times where we get lucky, but doesn't work that way. So I went, I got my real estate license. I went to school with beautiful lady Jeannie Gavish at Nature's Coast School of Real Estate. And it took me a little bit because I thought I was smarter than the test.
Oh.
So I like to share, if you are thinking about getting your real estate license, one, don't give up, because never has anybody asked me how many times it took me to pass the test. 4.0 in college, it took me 5 times to pass that test.
You heard it here.
Yes. And but I thought I was smarter than it. I'm like, I'm already in, because I would help my mom with the business, so I would still
and rentals and stuff like that, right?
And stuff like that. So I helped her with that.
So you stepped in there going, I
was like browsing through that. I'm like, it's going to be easy. My first test score was a 38. I have never received a 38 on anything in my life.
Oh gosh.
And I was so
devastating.
Well, one, because I thought I was passing. Like, I was so confident. I was like, oh, I passed, right? So he was like, so if they give you 2 pieces of paper, you fail.
Okay.
If they give you 1 piece of paper, you passed. So I kept on going until I decided to take it serious. I went away to a hotel for a weekend with my mom. She's my lucky charm. And I ate that book. I did nothing. I read the book. I listened to the questions. I repeated it. I did my flashcards, and then I took the test in it. And I got 1 piece of paper.
So you knew this is it. Thank goodness. All right, beautiful. And from there?
Got my license, and I only, I knew Jeannie Gavish, and she worked at a local franchise here, Keller Williams.
So I want to stop because I want to touch up on something. And again, today you share whatever you're comfortable in sharing, and I respect the limits if there are some. I know you're transparent. Your husband is very transparent, and a lot of people do know the story, but we don't know who will be watching this for the first time that doesn't know. You got your license for realtor, and this was a big to do. It was a huge celebration. You passed after 5 tries. And so y'all decided, we're going to go out and celebrate this new step in your life and this new journey that's to come. And so you and your husband decide to go locally to a place to do that. And what was that day like?
This was the day I got my real estate license. And like I said earlier that day, I had gone and decided I wanted to work with KW. And so I was ready to do all that. And that night we went out and celebrated. And at the end of the night, my husband witnessed a situation where he, thought a woman was in need and was being forced to leave with a man, and he attempted to intervene. The gentleman did not like that.
Okay.
And altercation happened. If you don't know, my husband is a professional boxer.
Right.
And this gentleman was not. Big gentleman, but it's different when you are trained to fight and when you're, fighting someone on the street. So he was aggravated that he couldn't really hurt my husband. So he went back to his car. At that time, my son had showed up because he was going to drive us home. We were literally within walking distance of my house. So my son showed up. He did not know. So your son
was going to be your driver for the night to take you.
Okay. He was a senior in high school and finishing. He was doing dual enrollment. So at the time he was 18.
He's actually, congratulations. You've raised two amazing children. So kudos to you.
Thank you.
Because again, given that story that you share with everyone, again, see, squirrel. Your daughter is a teacher.
She's a teacher. She's an 8th grade civics teacher.
Amazing. And your son, Xavier, he's also a realtor.
He's a realtor, but he also has a social media company called Exposure Show Social.
Okay.
And so he helps different businesses create more business for their business.
And he graduated college as well.
Yes.
They both did. So you have two college graduates.
Yes.
That's amazing. So congratulations.
Yes. Thank you.
That their achievement is really your achievement. And obviously that buzz as a mom in their ear. So they don't repeat stories, right? So back to the night that your husband encounters this gentleman, there is an exchange of whatever it may be. And it ends up leading to your husband being shot and your son. So your son, who wasn't even out with y'all, just happens to be at the wrong place at the wrong time, and he ends up getting hurt as well. And so that went from a celebration to a running around with your husband and your son.
Yeah.
Obviously, there was a legal case on this, so I don't want to touch up too much on that. The person responsible for this is serving time, correct?
25 day for day.
Okay. And
my son, the bullet went in and out of his foot, and I thank the Lord that he was home in 3 days and able to recover, and he has no, he's not suffering with anything. He didn't have any serious injuries, but my husband was intubated 3 times, died 3 times, and sepsis for 59 days until we moved him to a hospital that was able to perform a life-saving surgery on him.
59 days plus.
59. We was about between start to finish about 8 months of until he was fully
fighting for his life.
Yeah.
Basically. Good Lord, what a testimony! And I can't wait to sit with him actually and talk to him. And he's probably not going to be as comfortable. So I'm glad that you're sharing some of it. What did that do for you as a wife and mother during that time? And having recently gotten your license, and as a realtor, you have plans of what you were ready to do, and now your focus, I imagine, is on my son and my husband. So
I never left the hospital except for brief moments. So at the time, real estate became something else outside of sitting in the hospital, fighting with doctors. I documented every single minute of his journey. And use outside resources and doctors to help facilitate and save his life and get him, to the point out of that hospital. But real estate was like a happy thing for me. So I started documenting my real estate journey before I got my license. And so right when I got licensed, I actually already had customers.
Nice.
So some of my students, some of my past
beautiful.
students.
Okay.
So while he was in the hospital, my Keller Williams family, stepped in. I say my family because they were a family to me at that time.
That's awesome.
And helped me with my customers and helped teach me and just give me something different than the gruesome life that I was dealing with at that time.
Take you outside of that reality that was happening. So I'm going to get away a little bit from that, not because there's not so much more to share, but because, again, I want to have limits and boundaries, and I want to go to happy places as well, because you guys got through that again by the power of Jesus.
Amen.
I know the community came together for you guys in prayer. I know I did, along with many, many others. I know you were cared for as far as food and people showing up for you in many different ways. We hear her husband, for those that do not know, Jose Alonzo Cello is the husband that we continue to talk about. He always does his videos, and he can't thank his community enough for being there for him. So again, I am grateful that God had greater purpose for both of you. And so today, your husband does what and why?
So
at that time, he was doing what?
At that time, he was a personal trainer, and he was doing personal training as well as he was working for waste management as a driver.
Good Lord.
So
that's tough. My husband tried that.
Yeah, he did. He loved it. I mean,
Really?
anything cello does, he makes it into a competition.
Oh Lord.
So,
okay, it was a workout for him.
It was a workout for him.
My husband's a little older. He didn't need that workout. Go ahead.
So he's been a man that's made his money with his body. So when he came home from the hospital, he went in. He was at the peak of his weight. He was weight training. He was flipping 1,000-pound tires. He was like,
I remember
he was a
obstacle
powerlifter.
courses.
He was doing obstacle courses, and then he was doing powerlifting. So he was a big guy. He was a big guy.
Okay.
And he came out of hospital 164 pounds.
Well, let me tell you, the fact that he was in good shape, I'm sure had to play a big role in his body being to resist everything he went through.
I've never heard of anybody being sepsis. His body was leaking bowels. His intestines were open, and the hospital wasn't recognizing that his body was leaking bowels. He was oozing out of his belly button.
Good Lord.
But he came home, and I'm always used to cello being boom, 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 baby, if you know cello.
Right.
You know, he did boot camps, and just a very motivational person, you know, motivating person, and a very happy person. And he had never experienced not being able to work with his body and being debilitated. And he had a colostomy bag. He came home with a colostomy bag.
Gosh,
that was the surgery they had to do.
Okay.
So he, you know, he couldn't move around. He couldn't do the things that he did. And depression started,
of course,
to seeking in. And, you know, with my educational background, I dealt with it as much as I could, but there's always a personal, you know, part of it, right? So where it's like, you know, if I was outside looking in is one, but I was outside looking in and inside. And I remember one day at the time,
so you have to tread carefully.
Yes.
At least you're able to recognize this is the situation that's happening. And if I can't deal with it, I need someone that can.
Yeah, definitely. So I went up to him one day. At the time, I was reading a book by Mel Robbins. She's a motivational speaker. She's an author. And so I was doing a lot of that. Like I had to get myself out of this, because if not, I was going to be stuck in that rut.
Correct. So
I remember going up to him one day, and I was crying. And I was like, I miss you. He's like, what are you talking about? Right here. And I'm like, no, I miss my husband. I was like, you know, God has saved your life. The worst days are over. You're going to get better again. You're going to be able to do the things you did. I'm like, but sitting here, being depressed, being upset, and he was just a grumpy old man. I'm like, is not getting us anywhere.
He was processing and dealing the only way he at that moment felt he could.
Yes. And so I asked him.
Good wife.
Yeah.
You shook him up there. That's good.
I did. And I was like, you know, why don't you join me in real estate? I'm like, he's like, why would it ever make you think that I would want to be a realtor? You know, he's
I never thought I could, but mom convinced me.
Yeah, but I'm like, you know, he's a popular guy.
Yeah.
So I'm like, with your sphere of influence, you know, and what, you know, my knowledge that I've acquired, I said together, I'm like, we will
powerhouse.
I'm like, we will kill it.
Yeah.
And so I on his competitiveness, and you know, he says that I said we'll take over, but I don't know. I said
maybe she did whatever it took to get him motivated.
Yeah. So you know, he started studying. He got his real estate license.
So you did get him.
I did get him.
Studying.
Yeah, okay. He saw something different. You know, he saw that he didn't always have to with his hands or work with his body, and that there was something else. You know, he had used his mind for things, but I tell him, you're one of the smartest men that I know, because you retain information like no one that I know. When he was studying for, he had the National Academy of Sports Medicine, through NASM, his license.
Okay. And
I mean, this man would read these things and memorize them. He knows every name of every muscle in the body and how it connects. And like, I'm like, but
he's just blessed that way. They are people that they just,
So, but he never understood that. And so I'm like, you just haven't been taught this. I'm like, once you're taught this, you'll retain that information, and your personality is going to do everything possible to continue to learn and to grow, because that's just who you are. Right. And so he did it. It took him 5 times too.
Okay.
So together
there you go.
In his defense, he was studying for the national exam and not the Florida exam.
Okay.
It's just a funny story, I'll say. So one day he's asking me all these real estate questions, and I'm already doing business. I'm out here. I thank the Lord that I hit the ground running.
Okay.
So he's asking me these questions, and I'm like, I don't know. He's like, you're the worst realtor ever. You don't know anything.
Whatever is in that book, we really don't use much. That's just to
what
pass
I was
the
telling
test.
him.
It's like insurance. I do insurance, and when we have to do the continuing education, I'm like, that's just really to get the course, but we don't really.
But it turned out he was reading a national book and not the Florida book.
Okay.
So none of those questions were the same questions
that you.
So I was like,
so is he able to do real estate in other states?
No, because he figured out that he was taking the wrong course. In the right course.
Gotcha.
And then he got his license.
But he didn't stop there.
No. Yeah, he continued, and now he is the broker here. He's my broker.
Okay.
At Florida's A-Team Realty.
So he is the broker, and together you guys are a power couple.
Thank you so much.
And despite of what each of you have been through individually, again, and I can't stop saying it because honestly it's worthy of admiration and to look up to and to try to duplicate or use as a role model, obviously exceptionals. You are both cheerful person because everywhere you see Cello, again, he's with his boom boom baby and he tries to put his best face out there. And listen, we all struggle day to day. So I'm sure not every day is a great day in his life or your life, but we will never tell because they know how to still handle everybody else, handle their business, and put that smile on and keep pushing forward. So again, you are very inspiring. So what advice you have for young girls that are still in school, might be in high school, have dreams, or may not have dreams and goals yet? What would you share with them?
I would say that you have to learn to believe in yourself. You have to learn how to be your own source of validation. You have to know, especially now with with technology and social media, people can be so mean and things can be spread so quickly that aren't true. And you can make a mistake in life. You're young, you're learning. You may make a decision that wasn't the best decision, but that's not the end. Right. That's not the end for you. Tomorrow's another day. You need to wake up every day and believe in yourself, believe in your dreams, and know that everything that you want in life, if somebody's ever done it, that means it's you're able to accomplish it.
Right.
But to every yes, there is a no. So you have to decide, is this worth something? Is this what I want to pursue? Is it worth it? Then I may need to say no to all these things on the right side and say yes to all the things on the left side so that I can reach them. And if you have people in your ear to tell you, hey, you shouldn't do that, or that's a dumb idea, or why are you even doing that?
Or you can't do it.
Or you
won't be able to.
Yep. Don't believe that. Don't believe the lies. Sometimes it's your own self because people have told you things, growing up that you just have those thoughts in your head. You could be your own worst critic. Yesterday I posted something, but you need to evict them from your brain and believe that you are what God says you are.
Amen.
You are powerful. You are intelligent. You are creative. You are amazing. And you can do this. Yes. If you want to do it, you can do it. And remind yourself every single day. Do not go through a day. I wake up in the morning and I have a practice where I look in the mirror. It's another Mel Robbins suggestion. It's a book, another one of her books. And just look in the mirror and I look at myself and I smile and I tell myself, you are amazing and you're going to have a good day today.
Oh my goodness, that's
every
awesome.
Single day.
I'm going to try to adapt that myself. And this is why we love her, because she is not only giving you advice, but she is speaking from her own personal experience, because she had to tell herself all these things to get to where she's at, and she lived the journey. So she is living proof that it can be done. No question about it, Cristina. God bless you. I love you. I admire you. I can't stop saying that enough. And thank you for the difference that you made, not only in your life and for yourself, but to everyone around you that you continue to encourage, push, and be the light for.
And I feel the same about you.
You're too sweet. All right, mi gente, gracias por otro episodio más. God bless.